Hey there, guys. So today I was training at home, just mucking around with the Freak Athlete belt squat attachment. So I wanted to give it a real honest crack and just see how it basically held up under a normal training session. So for me, the goal was to try and do a 10 sets of 10, gym volume style training using the belt squat. So I've loaded it up to 115 kilos, and the other reason for doing that is basically it's my body weight, and putting a plate in between each of the 25s just makes it so much easier to take the plates off at the end. That's something a lot of people forget with these sort of plate loaded machines. So yeah, look, it worked really quite well. Hit the quads really hard, and my goal for this was, knock out 10 reps and then wait 30 seconds. So I just stand at the top. I didn't want to re-rack the weight, like put the pin down or the lever down onto the ground. I wanted to keep the total, tension still running through my lower body, through my calves, through my ankles. Just works, all the soft tissue and just even your feet to a vast extent. You can really feel it, and the shoes that I'm wearing as well, they're just the barefoot shoes, so again, good quality footwear, and I can just really feel what I'm doing. I didn't know how I was going to go, hitting 10 sets of 10. I thought I'd fail quite miserably. Fitness for me isn't exactly the best at the moment, being a little bit slack, but yeah, look, 30-second breaks in between sets really does set you up for quite a significant quad burn. So for me, yeah, it was just about playing around with this style of training, because ultimately I've got another big competition in March. So at the moment now it's like, okay, let's lay all the groundwork, let's build up the foundations. This variation really does hit, just the legs really hard. Not taxing on the lower back whatsoever. So it means on the Tuesday I can do my normal barbell squats and then just basically push all the leg volume out onto, a Wednesday or a Thursday, whatever I want really. Squatting at the moment, it's generally on a Monday, sometimes it's on a Tuesday, but regardless, mucking around with the belt squat now on the Wednesday is sort of going to be the plan of attack, and it's going to be working up to 10 sets of 10 with this method stated. So again, the Freak Athlete machine and the concept they have works really quite well. After this, if you have the energy, I certainly didn't. I gassed out after 5 sets of this. Just clearly wasn't fit enough. But you can set it up to do your leg extensions as well as your leg curls, and you can also adjust the angle as well, so you can be on a decline for your leg curls, like laying down. Leg extensions, pretty self-explanatory. There's not too many variations of leg extensions. And then again, they also have the additional attachments, so you can do your glute ham raises as well, set it up to do your Nordic curls, set it up to do your good mornings, or back extensions, whatever you really want to call them. Again, I didn't have the energy after doing this to get there. And this was just a really quick training session. Had a cup of coffee, waited 5 minutes, had another cup of coffee, had something very light to eat, and then it was sort of like, I'm going to get stuck into training. And yeah, I just gassed out so fast. I think it's going to take, quite a few weeks to work up to that 10 sets of 10. As I'm sitting here now, quite a few hours later, I can tell tomorrow I'm going to wake up and my legs are going to be really quite cooked. Don't feel anything in the middle lower back, just, the belt sits really quite well, and you can adjust it. In terms of getting stuck at the very base of this, you'll see, with some of the reps, especially towards the end, I think it was set number 5, the base of it will actually, that little lever arm will touch the ground, so you don't have to ever worry about getting trapped at the base, which on set number 5 I really did start to fail. It's been a long time since I've actually pushed legs to failure. Normally on a squat, when I fail, it's my lower back or core that gives away, never my legs. But just the sheer amount of volume and short break times, as you can see, like I'm really starting to struggle. Quads wanted to cramp a little bit, but I didn't really have to worry about failing, because worst case scenario, I just have that little pin sort of area that would touch the ground, so I wasn't really worried about that. And then I came inside and I laid down for the next 10 minutes. I was absolutely gassed. My asthma started to play up a little bit as well, something that I've always had. So yeah, really struggled with that. And then 20 minutes later, I felt, even more exhausted than, after I'd finished. So yeah, huge oxygen debt that needed to be paid back. Heaps and heaps of lactic acid, and I could barely walk correctly afterwards. It was one of those feelings where if I tried to walk normally and get my quads to tense, they would completely give out on me. Leg press, I haven't had that sensation before, even being in my early 20s when I used to muck around with a leg press. I never ran into that type or that level of fatigue that I had today, and that would have just been because I didn't give myself a break. I was standing in between the sets. So now, I can feel my calves have been thoroughly worked, and definitely my feet as well. So yeah, really good piece of equipment. Would highly recommend it. When I get the fitness up enough, I'm going to start incorporating some of the leg curls, and then from there I'll start incorporating some of the back extensions, and that will just be to pump more total blood into my lower back and like the spinal erectors, which is just going to help carry over to my traditional squat. And a lot of people, they get stuck with the concept of, I have to squat to get better at my squat, versus the reality is, squatting is just the movement pattern. It's not necessarily the best movement for growing the legs. Like, yeah, you'll definitely grow legs from squatting, but in terms of actual quad development, you're probably better off with something like a leg press or this belt squat, or a belt squat in general. And I found, hamstring wise, for me, my hamstrings are really quite weak compared to my quads. I've never really done much direct hamstring work, so when I go and start doing that, I can see that there's a huge strength difference. Squatting alone, it's really done very little for my hamstrings, and same to even glutes to an extent. I've got to do something else to keep the hips and everything else healthy, stable, somewhat balanced, because that's going to then look after my lower back. So yeah, looking forward to just mucking around more with doing this. Eventually, as I said, 10 sets of 10's the goal, with 30-second breaks, and that becomes a very short and efficient way to train on a Wednesday, or if I need to push it out on Thursday. And then I'll just quickly set it up and then do lying hamstring curls. Again, I'd be shooting for 10 sets of 10, keeping the break times at around that 30-second mark. And it's more about just building the conditioning up in that area first, establishing, I'm going to say, a movement pattern, or just getting more efficient at firing the muscle a lot in general. And going really high rep like that is just going to force a lot of blood into the area. So as a whole, I'm going to get fitter, but I'm also going to lay the foundation for a lot more capillary beds, better circulation, and everything else that I really need to boost recovery long term. So there's a few ways of looking at it. From a nervous system standpoint, I really didn't find this taxing on my CNS whatsoever. It was just really taxing from a heart and lungs point of view, as well as the sheer amount of lactic acid buildup. Versus, when I squat really heavy with a barbell, there's a lot more other factors that come into play, especially when I start throwing on the belt and knee wraps. So yeah, definitely walked away from this, training session feeling very fatigued, but only from a muscular standpoint, and even a little bit of cardio standpoint. Nothing in terms of like feeling dead tired to your bones, sort of feeling like when you're really burnt out from a CNS point of view. And for you that don't understand, CNS just means central nervous system, and that's basically your ability to recruit and fire your muscle tissue basically the way that you want and the way that it should be used. So yeah, just mucking around with training. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll do my best to get back to you. Hit like and subscribe, and if there's other video topics that you want covered, just let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to address them. They also serve then as good video topics for later on as well. So yeah, I'll just let the end of the video play out. You'll understand how hard the breathing got towards the end, and how bad my asthma really is. So yeah, thanks for watching.